If you're walking a spiritual path, one of the main obstacles that you come across when you're walking that path is, to simply put it, yourself, or at least the idea of yourself, your thoughts, the way you feel about yourself, your story, your ego, if you like. Is your ego, is it a good thing, is it a bad thing? Well, it just simply is. And how do we relate this to ourselves with our practice? Come and join me. So ego, this identity that we have with ourself, of ourself, is it a good or a bad thing? Well, it just simply is. It's an aspect of yourself, but it's not the whole picture. When we were first born into this world, we were born out of bliss. Little babies, little bundles of bliss with no idea of who we are, where we're from, what society we become a part of. Yes, the little babies cry when they want the mother's milk, but generally just that resting in the oneness. And the same happens as we grow as adults. Where do you go when you go to sleep at night? Well, sometimes maybe you dream, but then what? Or where do you go in a dreamless sleep? There's an awareness of it, because when you wake up, you know that you've had a good deep sleep. And also, when you wake up in the morning, it happens fairly regularly with myself. Let me know, does it happen to you? When you wake up, there are a few seconds where you're just awakening into the bliss of another day. And then the sense of self, your mind sort of drops in. You realise that it might be a Tuesday, and then there's the plans, the itinerary, this idea of yourself and your place in the world forms around you. So yes, we have an ego. An ego is an aspect of ourselves, but it's just part of the picture. Well, how can that be? How can we question this thinking identity that we have of ourselves? Well, life happens around us. Life happens, and then we react to life. There's a split second. So I feel this warm summer breeze, and then a split second after feeling this warm summer breeze, my mind categorises it. Yes, it's a warm summer's breeze. It reminds me maybe of the breeze that I felt when I was a child. And so there's an aspect of yourself that witnesses, and I've said this before in other content, in other videos, we witness, and then your mind, this sense of yourself, your persona even, rushes in and quantifies and qualifies the experience. So does this mean then that mind, ego is a negative thing? If you're not aware of your ego, then maybe the perception is that you are your thoughts. This is you and your life. And I think this is where most of the ills in the world comes from, because we have this desperate sort of grasping sense of self, of holding on to things. To go back to when you was a little baby, when you were first born, just in the bliss of it all. But then as you start to develop, and as your brain develops, the different sort of neurons connecting, and I remember with my own children, you get to the age of about 2 or 3, and then there's suddenly this identity is born. It's like when they first grasp for the teddy bear or the doll, this is mine. And so they're already cultivating this sense of self, which again is perfectly natural. But when you walk a spiritual path, a spiritual inquiry, especially practices such as meditation, breathwork, pranayama, you come to realise that this idea, these thoughts that we have that we pertain to be ourselves, they're just manifesting in the stillness, in the sanctity of space, your mind space, your chittakash in Sanskrit. So we are this universal space. We are the witness, and then life happens. So the more familiar that you become with the sense of self, with your ego, if you like, well, then the less empowered your ego becomes. It's as if you're sort of polishing your ego, so it becomes more transparent, and then you're not as distracted by, if you like, your thoughts, with how you feel. So with the practice of meditation, it is just simply that, to sit there, to be present to all that arises, physically, mentally, emotionally, but you're the witness. So those thoughts, that sense of identity, your ego, is just an aspect of yourself. So don't be in too much of a hurry to judge your ego, I've heard people trying to kill their egos. Well, it sounds like another spiritual rod to beat yourself up with, because we need to have this sense of identity. Well, it certainly helps when you live in the world, when you're a part of society. But like I say, it's about balance, finding that balance between your perception, your connection with your ego, we can call it our little selves, and with the witness, with your higher self, that aspect which is unchanging. So if you like the video, please like it, help me with the algorithm. Subscribe if you're not already subscribing. You can always contribute, buy me a coffee. I thank you.